Welcome everyone to the webinar for Capitol Hill Club Day 2019, our first time attendee webinar. Thanks so much for making the time to join us today. My name is Jennifer Fox and I'm joined here with Emily Tavino and Armstrong Robinson. It's 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. So just a quick overview of our agenda. First, we'll review our CHC app. Then we'll head to our schedule and logistics, what to expect on Capitol Hill, and then we'll finish off with a quick overview of our policy priorities. And now I'll pass it off to my colleague, Emily Savino.
All right, thank you, Jen. So we have the AALU CHC app, which is available in the App Store. That is for iPhones and Androids both. This is actually going to be different from your regular Transform app. It's an app we use specifically for CHC, and it is very crucial that you have this. Reason being, the primary purpose of this app is to show you your meeting schedule for CHC. So something that Jen's going to touch on a little bit later in the webinar is that sometimes congressional meetings change. Sometimes we have to be flexible for members of Congress and their staff. So this app, the AALU CHC app, is going to be updated in real time with your congressional meeting schedule. So it is absolutely crucial that you download it, that you log in, so you're able to access that in real time. Now, you'll see the login information available on the slide there. Your email address that you use to register for Transform, that's going to be your login for the AALU CHC app. And the password is all caps, CHC 2019. And once you log in, if we go to the next slide, you will see a list of your meetings for CHC. Those are currently disabled as of today, but once we get a little bit closer to Transform, you'll be able to see that updated again in real time. So in the login page right there, you'll see your meetings. Oh, can we go back? All right. You'll see your meetings there. That gives you who you're meeting with, the office, what time you're meeting with them, whether you're meeting with the member themselves or someone on the congressman's staff or the congresswoman's staff. And if you look at the kind of screenshot on the right-hand side of your page, you will see once you click on the meeting, it'll open up a page that gives you a map of where the office is located. And if you turn on location services on your phone, it'll also show you kind of a blue dot that you can use to track your progress as you're walking over to the office. Also on that page, you will see a kind of button there at the bottom for attendees. If you were to click on that button, you would be able to get access to everybody who is in that meeting with you, who's kind of in your group for the day. And then you can message each other through the app as well. So if we go to the next slide, this is some additional information that is available in the AALU CHC app. You're going to have your talking points in there. You're going to have tips on how to conduct a meeting, your Capitol Hill map, as well as an effective storytelling document, which kind of shows you how to kind of build your meeting there. Not all of these documents are in the app as of today, but they will be added in the next couple weeks as we move forward closer to Transform. And then the other screenshot you see, that's more information that's also available. It's the directory, which includes everybody that is going to CHC Day. And you can kind of message people through the app that way. Now, one thing that's really important when you do download the app is you will want to enable push notifications. That's going to be incredibly important. Again, as I said earlier a couple minutes ago, if meetings do change, if a location changes, if a time changes, you're going to want to have that push notification enabled so that we can update you when that change occurs. So that's going to be really important that you do enable that feature when you download the app. So as I said, meetings are currently disabled as of today, but you will get that information closer to Transform once we finalize the schedule. You also have the ability in the app to kind of call the office if you're running late to a meeting. You can use, there's a phone icon in the meeting page that lets you call the office directly. And there's other information too, you know, if you do want to connect with the other people attending your meeting, you all can connect that way and share messages and coordinate on logistics. So again, this is a separate app than the Transform app that's going to be used for the larger conference. This is focused just on CHC Day, and it is really important that you do download it. You are able to log in and use that to see your schedule for Tuesday. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jen, who will talk about the schedule for CHC Day.
Thanks, Emily. So just a quick reminder, CHC Day is happening on Tuesday, April 30th. We've scheduled your meetings from 1 to 4 p.m. We'll notify you if those meetings are earlier and help to make arrangements to help get off to the Hill. Again, that's really important that you do have your schedule and your app. We'll use that as well to notify you if schedules do change. Most people will likely have 1 to 2 meetings. We've built in some time for you to also attend our town halls. Town hall will be occurring in the Senate Dirksen building in room G11. We have 3 great options for you to attend. The first is at 1 p.m. It's entitled From City Hall to the Halls of Congress. The second is at 2 p.m. From Producer to Politician, featuring Congressman Brad Schneider. And then at 3 p.m., the Ways and Means Outlook for 2019, featuring Chairman Richie Neal of Massachusetts. Something to keep in mind, we have scheduled meetings for you, and these meetings will likely be scheduled during the time of your town halls. Your meetings are more important, so please let us know if your schedule has changed so we can let the congressional offices know that you will not be attending. And then a closing reception will be held to close the evening out from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. That reception is for all attendees of Transform. And then some other sessions to be aware of. We will host an additional webinar on April 18th, this Thursday, from 2 to 3 p.m. That session will do a deeper dive into our issue areas. The second thing to keep in mind is we will have an in-person prep session on Tuesday morning from 9:35 to 10:35 in Salon 5 within the hotel. This is also a really great time for you to get together with your groups and coordinate logistics heading off to the Hill. If you have any questions while you are in Washington, stop by our advocacy desk, which will be near registration on the mezzanine level 2. So some quick logistics. We will have buses that will take you from the Marriott Marquis off to Capitol Hill. These buses will run on a loop from 12 to 7 p.m. After 4 p.m., an additional stop will be added for 101 Constitution, where our closing reception will be held. If you're heading straight off to Capitol Hill, we'll have bagged lunch available for you, so you can grab that off on your way to the Hill. If not, lunch will be served at the hotel, and then you can head off if you have later meetings. A huge thing to keep in mind that's changed from this year is luggage must be stored at the Marriott Marquis. There will be no luggage storage available at 101 Constitution, so you must store your luggage at the hotel. And this is just a map to show you where the locations are. The bus will drop off at Garfield Circle, so at the bottom of Capitol Hill, and it'll pick up at the Peace Circle Monument. The reception, you can see at the top of your screen, that's where it'll be. And then the buildings, the Senate and the House buildings here as well. And then this is just another view of the Capitol complex for you to keep in mind that the Senate buildings are on the different side than your House side buildings. To get across the Hill, it takes about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, so please keep that in mind as you are coordinating your schedules. And I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions, please go ahead and utilize the chat box on the side or use the question and answer function in your screen as well. Great. If there are no questions, we'll move on to our next slide. So Capitol Hill Club Day is a fly-in. And if you've never participated in a fly-in, these are experiences in which we have constituent advocates fly into Washington, D.C. to visit with their members of Congress. The Hill experiences these probably dozens, if not more, per day. Especially right now, it's considered fly-in season, so many groups have constituent advocates flying into Washington to talk to their lawmakers and their staff about issues that matter most to them. This is a great opportunity for you to meet with your lawmaker and their policy staff here in Washington, so sort of visiting them at the office. When you're flying into Washington, it shows the lawmaker how much you do care about these issues. These meetings matter a lot to them, and they truly appreciate them. And in a study done by the Congressional Management Foundation, staff reported that these issues, that visiting with members of Congress in person have really great influence on what goes on here in Washington. You can see here, in-person issue visits from constituents as well as contacts have 94% positive influence or some positive influence. We do still value our lobbyists here. They have an 83% positive influence, but they lean on folks like you to help to fill the gaps of knowledge on these issues, especially to help them understand how these issues matter in their districts and to their voters. So these members of Congress all come from different backgrounds. There's doctors, there's lawyers, there's folks who've been in public service their entire lives, there's former professional athletes on the Hill. They all come from different backgrounds, and they come to Washington to legislate on a bunch of different issues. So they lean on constituents like you to help fill those gaps of knowledge, but they also lean on their staff to help them understand these issues. So if you look here, this is a good graph to show you sort of who you might be meeting with when you're here in Washington. We do our best to make sure you meet with members of Congress, but they are very busy. They have hearings, they have committee meetings, they're meeting with other constituents. There's a lot of different things pulling on their time. So you might not have a meeting with your member of Congress, and that's okay. It's also possible your member of Congress may show up halfway through your meeting, just stop by to say hello, or you might not see them at all. You might see them in the hallway as well. The next person in the office you might be meeting with is the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff typically is the member of Congress's right hand. They help oversee the office. They help to make sure all things administratively and operational-wise is going, but they're also very close to their member of Congress. From there, you might meet with a legislative director. These folks are typically policy specialists. They understand all the different policy areas that are happening in a congressional office, and they have a good sense of what's happening with policy and politics. Another person you might meet with is the legislative assistant. Those folks are typically a little bit on the younger side. And then another person you may meet with is a legislative correspondent or a staff assistant. Those folks are typically even younger than the legislative assistant. However, if you're meeting with folks on the Senate side, typically a legislative correspondent or an LC might have a bigger specialization in the area or the policy issue that they're working on. Overall, members of the House have smaller staff, so their staff focus on a lot of different issues, so they're more generalized. On the Senate side, they do have more staff, and those staff understand the issues a little bit deeper. Either way, these folks are typically their boss's expert on the topic. So any staff member that you meet with, whether it be someone from an LC all the way up to the Chief of Staff, it's still very important to treat each person with respect as if you were meeting with their member of Congress as well.
Well, and Jen, this is Armstrong. Let me just add, the mobility is very high in members of Congress's offices. And so this year you may meet with the LC, who next year can conceivably be the Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Army. So some things to expect on Capitol Hill. The first big thing is to give yourself time to go through security lines. The security is similar to TSA. You go through screening, so no large bags. In most cases, water and food are okay unless you're going to the Capitol, the actual Capitol building itself, the Capitol Visitor Center. No weapons, nothing that would make you question. So pocket knives or anything to that effect. Just make sure if you couldn't get on an airplane with it, you shouldn't be bringing it with you to Capitol Hill. The second thing, as we mentioned, expect to meet with staff. That will be noted in your app. So when you head into an office, make sure you say you're here to meet with whoever you are supposed to be meeting with as noted in your app. Be on time. Make sure you call the office if you'll be late. As Emily mentioned, there's that function in the app to click the phone and you'll be able to call the office. The other thing is don't be too early. These congressional offices are pretty small, so there's not a lot of room for you to hang out. So try to be just about 5 to 10 minutes early if you can. Make sure you bring a lot of business cards. Oftentimes when you check into a congressional office, they'll ask for a business card, so make sure you bring those with you. Meetings can occur anywhere. As mentioned earlier, these offices are pretty small, and it is fly-in season, so lots of constituents are here in Washington to visit with their lawmakers and their staff. The meetings can happen inside the office, in the lobby, in the halls. Just be prepared for anything. The meetings matter the exact same no matter where you're placed. Make sure you wear comfortable shoes and expect to do a lot of walking. As mentioned earlier, to get from one side to the other side of the hill could take about 20 to 30 minutes, so you want to make sure you wear comfortable shoes. Stay on topic. The meetings you have probably will last about 15 to 30 minutes max, so you want to make sure you're not wasting too much time talking about how wonderful your baseball team is doing or anything about your local sports. And the last thing is make sure you keep politics out of it. No talking about fundraising or political giving, who you voted for. When you're on Capitol Hill, you're in an official setting, and you must stay to the policy topics at hand. And then the last piece I'll review with you is storytelling. A huge piece about what we're doing on the Capitol Hill on the 30th is about telling your story, telling the story of the life insurance profession and the financial security industry. We want to make sure folks understand what you do and how you do it and what it means to the clients that you help. So the first thing to keep in mind is connect your story to your lawmaker. If you have time to read their bio, which will be in your app beforehand, do that. Make sure you understand their background. Are they a doctor? Maybe they were a banker. Something to help you connect to the lawmaker, connect to their staff. Also understand what committees they're on. Are they on Ways and Means or Financial Services, which has a great connection to the work that we do? Are they on Agriculture? It just helps to better put parameters around the stories that you tell and understand your audience. And the last thing is making sure you connect to the district. The second piece is setting the stage. So you want to talk about your clients. Share who they are, what they do, how you've helped them. We really are going to try to focus in on helping small businesses, middle-class families, and tell the stories of those folks that we've helped. The next piece is to frame the issue. Talk about a situation that your clients face. So in this case, we'll be talking about retirement and how you help them save for retirement and how the work that you do prepares them. Explain the outcome of the work that you do. What happens when you do help folks save for retirement? How do you help them? Or if you're unable to help them, what's the reason for that? Then we move to the moral. Without policy blank, I wouldn't have been able to help my client because. That's a huge piece of the conversation, is to understand how you bring the policy piece to the lawmaker. And the last thing, we're going to ask them to take action. Army will talk to you more about what we're going to be asking from our lawmakers, but make sure you end with asking them to take action on something. And with that, I'll pass it on to Army to talk about what we're asking them to take action on.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Jen. Let me start quickly before we jump into how a bill becomes a law. Your old Schoolhouse Rock is the Schoolhouse Rock version, AALU style. But listen, this is the most difficult thing I find in my over a decade in doing this is that people make this interaction more complicated than it needs to be. Jen gave you a bunch of great tips, but what I would encourage you to approach this is just like you're meeting with a new client. If they don't understand the benefit of the work you do and the societal good it provides to families, businesses, or communities, then none of the policy details matter. It's only when they understand and appreciate the benefit of the work to those groups in their district that any of the details matter afterwards. So what you have on the slide in front of you is a basic overview of how a bill becomes a law. As Jen said, our core messages this year for Capitol Hill Club are our perennial issues as life insurance financial security professionals. So we'll talk about life insurance and its benefits to people and businesses, different ways it's used and how you use it to protect those families and businesses. You want to focus on sort of average families and small businesses rather than your largest cases. And you want to bring it home to hopefully a touching story or a district element, something that connects them back to home. At the end of the day, the other thing, so we'll cover estate tax, COLI-BOLI, best interest, that, you know, sort of our regular bevy of issues. And in addition, as we become more focused as an industry and a profession on retirement security and generally people with enough savings, AALU and your GA committee has endorsed 2 pieces of parallel legislation that we'll be asking folks to advocate on during this Capitol Hill Club. And those 2 bills have been introduced each respectively in the House and the Senate. And so you can see on your slide, they're introduced. That's already happened. The Secure Act, which is the House bill, has had a committee hearing. The Senate bill has not yet. And so where it is in the process on the left-hand side, the House bill is nearly ready for the House floor vote. And we expect that sometime this summer, and the Senate bill will follow later this year. And so our request, our hard ask, it's our 2 classics, right? I want to be a resource to you and your staff around these issues. And we're going to be asking to do follow-up meetings in district. But the legislative ask, the hard ask, is we want you to co-sponsor or vote for the Secure Act in the House and the RESA, the Retirement Enhancement Savings Act, in the Senate. And as Jen said, we'll go through more of that on the webinar Thursday and during the in-person training at Transform. And we're also glad if you've got specific questions about those bills, feel free to contact any one of the 3 of us or our team. But, you know, in your final, second to last slide, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the presentation yet. If you go one further, Rachel, this sort of talks about some of the retirement crisis. This is what you guys do all the time, and so you know very well, too many Americans are in favor of their instant gratification than their long-term protection. And it's both a personal problem as well as a public policy issue. And so this is where the 2 bills we're supporting go straight at those issues. And those bills are basically focused on a series of complexities and simplifications that allow greater access to retirement vehicles and retirement savings for individuals and businesses that don't yet have plans.
Thanks, Army. And with that, we'll take any last questions.
So one question that came in earlier, and I wanted to kind of verbalize this just in case people can't open the chat, but we mentioned an app at the beginning of the webinar. It is available for download. If you search AALU CHC in the App Store, you'll be able to find it, download it. Your login is going to be the email address to use to register for Transform, and your password is all caps CHC 2019. If you do have any problems logging in, please just reach out to Jen or I.
And then another question just came in about the meeting setup. In most cases, you'll be in a group of about 2 to 3 at max. You'll have about 6 folks with you. In most cases, you'll be in a small group, and you'll be able to contact those folks utilizing your app to see who's in your meeting. In addition, on Tuesday in our prep session, we'll ask you to sit with your region, so it'll be easier for you to coordinate with your fellow group members. If there are no other questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help, and we look forward to seeing you in just a few short weeks here in Washington.